Welcome to the next episode of Brandland. I'm Garrett Justice, and today I'm joined by Liz Comer, who's the Director of Marketing and Communications at Silvercreek Realty Group in Idaho. Liz, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
We're super excited to have you on the show today. Before we do, though, tell us a little bit more about your career background and what Silvercreek Realty Group does.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Liz Comer, like you said. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Silvercreek. I am born and raised in Idaho, graduated from the University of Idaho up north with a degree in studio art and design from the College of Art and Architecture with the university. I studied a lot of graphic design, and then I was hired as a media specialist here in Boise with the University of Idaho Extension right out of college. From there, I took a job with Sotheby's International Realty franchise here in Boise, which is kind of a luxury real estate firm. That was how I got introduced into real estate. After that, I got offered a position as the Director of Marketing and Communications here with Silvercreek, and I've been here for almost 2 years, and I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun. So Silvercreek, go ahead.
Go ahead. Tell us about Silvercreek.
Yeah, so Silvercreek is a locally owned brokerage. It's not a national franchise. It was started here in Meridian, which is near Boise, or in Boise, in 2008. So they started a real estate brokerage during the recession. They started with 35 realtors. Over the years, they have grown to, we have grown to almost, we have 1,765, maybe 1,780 realtors. We're creeping up on 1,800. We're growing fast and consistently, and that's been over the last 13 years now. We closed $4.65 billion in sales last year, and had 13,750 transactions. So that put us in the top 40 in the United States. So we're really excited and pretty proud of what we're doing here in our little state.
Yeah, that is excellent. I was reading some of the, stats like you just shared on the site. Number one realty company in Idaho for several years in a row, and I saw on the site top 100 brokerage, but now you're saying you've broken top 40. That's pretty awesome. Look out, all the rest on the top of that list, like Silvercreek's coming, right?
Yeah, we're coming. Well, maybe we debate back and forth whether we're going to go outside of Idaho or not. It's a constant back and forth. We've always said that we'll stay in Idaho, but if we go national, watch out, everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to ask you too, what's the thing you love most about Idaho? So for people who are listening, who maybe have never been there or only once or twice, what do you love so much being that Idaho born, bred, went to school there, working there? Tell us what's to love about Idaho.
So I actually spent a lot of time right after college trying to get out of Idaho. I decided I didn't want to be here. I've lived here my whole life. So I spent a lot of time in Seattle and down in Austin and in Denver. And I've been spending a little time in New York, down in California, trying to figure out where my city was. And every time I left, I missed it so much. Like every time I flew back into little Boise airport, I just got a little smile on my face. It is a central hub for everything. You have outdoors, obviously, really, really close, rivers, lakes. The city is beautiful. You have all sorts of different kinds of cities. Downtown is a blast. It's great. I'm a horse person, so I can keep my horse here and be really close to everything I need, and I just love it. It's great.
Yeah. That is awesome. You and I were just talking about this before we jumped on, but, we're based in just south of Salt Lake City, you being in there in Boise. And I feel like Salt Lake City and Boise are kind of like those similar sister cities a little bit. I think a lot of times when people, especially from the East Coast, think about, the mountains, they naturally think of Colorado, rightly so. Like Colorado is beautiful. But I think that some of those more forgotten cities a little bit are just a little bit more west, like Boise and Salt Lake City. So it's awesome. Good. Well, we'll see if we can get any listeners to check out Idaho and move there so you can find a house with Silvercreek, right?
Yeah, if you need a realtor, we've got a few for you.
Awesome. Well, hey, Liz, I'm excited to jump into our topic today, which is really around this idea of how do you set yourself apart in a saturated or competitive market. And I think that this is kind of going to be an awesome live case study, just hearing that context of all the success that Silver Creek has had, starting in the midst of kind of this recession and, housing bubble that had burst, to now being, the top 40 largest real estate brokerages in the country, and still focused primarily on Idaho, right? So being able to do that focused, primarily, or is it exclusively on Idaho, right?
Yeah, I think we might have like one or two agents outside of the state that are in both states, but exclusively Idaho. Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'd love to just dive into this a little bit more, but I guess before we get into, the weeds here, for those who aren't familiar with the real estate market in the Idaho area, tell us a little bit more about that. And, it sounds like there's been a lot of competition, especially the last few years. Tell us what the landscape is like there.
Oh, yeah. So Boise and Ada County has definitely been on a lot of the nation's top lists, top places to live lists for the last couple of years. The COVID outbreak did not hinder that at all whatsoever. Through COVID, I think we had like 3 months of hesitation right after March last year, but it really just pushed the market timing back about 3 months. And since then, it has been unreal. It's been growing fast. The inventory, which is the houses available on the market, is less and less. It's shorter and shorter. They measure it by days. Not a lot of inventory. We have a ton of buyers. And so we're getting multiple offers on homes constantly. And things are going $50,000 to $100,000 over asking price without that of an eye. There's a lot of cash buyers coming in from, other states that are a bit more affluent in their homes. And it's really pushing the market around a little bit. So competition is steep, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, I can see how that's happened. And I think it's happened, to a lot of different markets with some of the challenges and changes we've had in our world the last year, especially. But understanding, all of that competition, what we really want to dive into today is how has Silver Creek been so successful in differentiating itself and standing out from all of that competition to become that number one real estate brokerage in Idaho and top 40 in the US. So I know you, as we were talking about this topic a little bit, you have 5 keys to, being successful in a saturated market. So I think we want to walk through those 5 keys that you put together today. So should we jump in?
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. So I know the first key that you had was leading with passion. Tell us what you mean by that when you talk about leading with passion as a company.
Yeah. So brand, right? Brand is everything. We're on the Brandland podcast. So it really is the foundation of all marketing. I think that marketing, we can call that communication, right? And we're communicating our brand values at the end of the day, and trying to stay true to that. So Silver Creek, to its core, was built off of family values. It was built by Aaron, Roger, and Joyce Dowdy. Aaron is the son of Roger and Joyce, and the 3 of them put this company together back in 2008 with a sincere desire to kind of elevate our Idaho communities. And the family values are what everything is built off of here. So that's a big part of our core brand value. We, as like a corporate staff, come to work every day knowing that we make a big difference in the way the industry is run. And we're really passionate about it. And we've seen that in turn, we attract clients and agents that are also very passionate about their business with like a similar itch to follow their passions. So we do our best to encourage the same approach with our agents. So we really think that when you follow your passions, the agents or your clients will follow with that in suit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
When you break that down into like the sales funnel, if you talk about marketing technically, we have the exploration and then the decision and the execution and then the advocate, right, of your sales funnel. The brand advocate is the number one source of marketing, I think, in our opinion. Word of mouth and the way people talk about you and your company is everything. So we want to cultivate our brand advocate and that end of the sales funnel. And the best way to do that is through emotional connection, and that's through living and leading with passion. So
yeah, I think that makes total sense. So, one question I have for you just as a follow-up on that is, like many companies, it sounds like Silver Creek was started by this family group, and a lot of the values that are important in the company today kind of stemmed from some of those people and what was important to them. I think that's the case with many companies. A lot of companies take on the most dominant characteristics or values of some of their founders. But as Silver Creek has scaled to now be about, you said close to 1,800 agents, I think. How have you thought about, and what types of things have you done to help maintain that culture and those important values as you continue to grow?
Yeah. I think when they started the business, there was a lot of passion in the way that they approached things, and they did things a little bit different. So when they started, it was more to keep the money in the agent's pocket. And they also wanted to focus on the agent as a client rather than the home buyer or home seller as a client, which is an alternative to the way a lot of brokerages run, right? Brokerages market homes to buyers and sellers, and then the agent acts as the middleman. They didn't like how that worked. So we don't market homes. We cater to agents. Obviously, we provide every opportunity for the agent to market themselves in the best way possible, but it was the way that they kind of thought about things differently and ran with what they were really excited about. That's what trickles down to our agents. So my job as a marketing director, I don't really hand my agents a marketing plan and say, hey, you have to do this, this, and this. I provide a huge array of opportunities, just about everything that you could offer on the market for agents to pick and choose what they're excited about and market themselves in the way that they see fit. So it puts them in the driver's seat for their business. And as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, not being told how to do your business, but being provided all the opportunities of what you think is right and wrong has really been a staple in the way that we run things. And I think that that's really set us apart from other brokerages for sure.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I can see how when you position it like that, you attract an agent who naturally is passionate, right, about what they do and who wants to be that business owner and kind of run their own small business with that support. So that's excellent. All right. Key number 2 for how to set yourself apart in a saturated market is capitalizing on your strengths. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, capitalizing on your strengths. We like to say eyes on your own paper. One of the first steps in creating a marketing plan or in any brand development is your market research, right? Seeing what your competitors are doing, seeing who we're up against, who we want to be more like, who we don't want to be like. We advocate that you know who you're working with, right? I see so many businesses and brokerages and realtors kind of chasing a similar solution based on what the leaders are doing, rather than taking inventory on what makes their personal company tick. So I really think that instead of spending time and energy trying to figure out how the next guy is generating more income, spending your time on figuring out what your client needs and what they're missing and listening to what they need, and then kind of highlighting what strengths you can align with that is a way more effective way to spend your time and money and energy. So I think staying in your lane, keeping your eyes on your own paper, focusing on your strengths, highlighting your strengths is the way to go. And when you have a strong core brand value that you're really confident in, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I love that. I think it was it Jeff Bezos who said, pay attention to competitors, but obsess over customers, right?
Yeah, yes,
So
exactly.
That's exactly what that reminds me of. And I think that ties into the first point that you made too, is like when you know who you are, what's important to you as a company, that culture, those values, that essentially the brand of who you are as an organization, and you focus more on just telling the world who you are, then you attract people who think similarly, and it's real because it's based on those values rather than just trying to manufacture the right values or culture or things to talk about based on what your competitors are doing.
Yes, absolutely. And sincerity and transparency are really important. So I agree.
Awesome. Cool. Well, key number three to setting yourself in apart in a saturated market is never disregard weaknesses. So tell us a little bit more about this one.
Yeah. Okay, so we can focus on our strengths. Obviously, it's really important to focus and highlight on your strengths, but not disregarding your weaknesses is really important also. I'm not totally sure if it was the case, but in 2008, when the company started, they didn't really have a marketing or branding person when they got rolling with it, and so they didn't really have anyone to police the branding. And they, like I said, they didn't necessarily cater to the actual home buyer or seller. So brand autonomy was okay. And I don't know if this is true, but I don't think that they put too much thought into it until agents were like, okay, I want to brand myself. And the owners were okay with it. That's fine because they didn't have anybody else to do it for them. That became our number one selling point with Silvercreek is when you come to Silvercreek, the only necessary branding is that you have Silvercreek Realty Group on everything that you put out, and that is the Idaho Real Estate Commission law, and that is the end of the brand book here, which was wildly overwhelming for me when I came on, but I totally understand it now. Agents love to be in the driver's seat, brand themselves, run their own business, and that started out in my mind as a weakness, and it's totally our strength now. So capitalizing or finding opportunity in that shortcoming was actually pretty cool, and they kind of flipped it for themselves.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's kind of you were kind of saying it's a weakness, but let's lean into it a little bit. Let's fix what needs to be fixed, but lean into the good parts of this. Is that right?
Totally. Yeah. Another fun example today on a brokerage level, a lot of brokerages kind of prioritize needs. So some will talk about their education, and some will talk about their mentorship or their broker support or their technology or their culture, trying to bring agents over to the brokerage, right? Price points, things like that. One thing that agents across the board, I think everywhere, struggle with is social media. We know we have to be on social media. We talk about it all the time, but who has time and energy to put into it? So we see a lot of companies producing content that they can automate onto their social media, but we aren't totally in love with it. So we saw that as a weakness across the board. We developed an internal social media posting program that's all local content that's actually generated by agents and by local businesses and local philanthropies. The content's generated here in-house, and we kind of built a system and leaned into that weakness. And now we have our Silvercreek social platform, which kind of filled the cup for Silvercreek agents so they can have the content ready to roll, just send it out. And it's been huge. It's not anything that we've seen from any other brokerage. It's a huge selling point for our agents here. They love it. And that was a really fun example of how we kind of leaned into finding an opportunity in a shortcoming.
Yeah, I love that. Great example. I can see how, it seems like the key is to do kind of co-branding with these agents with, the brokerage brand, but still as their individual business owners, let them own their business and co-brand it for what makes sense with them. So how do you blend that brokerage brand with their own personal brands and still, attract that level of consistency while offering the flexibility for them to express themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Well, okay. So let's recap real quick. Of these 5 keys, we've talked about leading with passion, capitalizing on strengths. The last one was never disregard your weaknesses. And then the fourth you have here is marketing and sales, or marketing and business development must syndicate or just be really closely tied together. Is that right? Tell us more about that one.
Yes. I just read something from Forbes that said the chief marketing officer is the most dangerous title on the C-level staff, which is discouraging because I have my eyes on that title. But they said the chief marketing officer should be the chief marketing and business development officer. So they're essentially saying that, well, in my mind, marketing is communicating to thousands and thousands of people, whereas sales is communicating to one person at a time, and it's like the boots on the ground to generate the income, right? I think they would agree in this article that the disconnect between sales and the marketing promises can be a disaster if you're not fully on the same page at all times. I think one of the coolest things about Silvercreek is our marketing and our business development meet every single morning, no matter what, every single morning at 9 a.m. And we go over what's happening in the sales department, what's happening in the marketing department, so we can be perfectly cohesive. And I was kind of proud of that when I read that article. But yeah, it comes down to making sure that the messaging is the same across the board. And I think that educating the consumer is the most valuable play when it comes to that. And being able to educate the consumer on the same page across the entire company is a difficult task, but it is a necessary task.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, most marketing and salespeople have struggled with that marketing sales disconnect at one point or another, right? It's pretty classic. And so what I'm hearing you say is consistency is what's key, right? That we're consistently telling the same story, talking about ourselves in the same way to prospective customers across marketing channels, as well as in those business development or sales conversations. And it sounds like one of the ways that you've been able to maintain that consistency is just building trust with your sales and business development teams. So, and that sounds like it comes just from meeting regularly, right? Getting to know them, working with them regularly, showing them that, hey, we're here to support you, and vice versa. Is that right?
Yeah, full communication, clear, open communication, being open to changes. I mean, our market is changing constantly. So that back and forth is so necessary, and being flexible and ready to roll, and full communication, making sure everyone's on the same page at all times.
Makes sense. I love that. Just that example of just, you have a set meeting where you meet every day together, right? And you talk about, what's top of mind. I think that's so great because it's such a tangible way to build that trust and consistency across marketing and sales touch points. I think a lot of marketers want to, work closer with their sales counterparts or vice versa, but they don't really know how to make it happen. And like, I think that that's just an excellent example of, we'll start meeting with them every day and talking about, well, what are you doing today? What am I doing today? What can we do to help each other? And that's a great place to start to build that trust and ensure additional consistency.
Right. And a good spot to be able to identify places to capitalize on strengths, and then where are the weaknesses and how can I help the sales team kind of get rid of or eliminate those points or fill those cups or whatever it is, whether it be, other media avenues, email marketing, social media marketing, digital marketing, however we can get proper communication lines out there.
Awesome. Well, okay. We're moving on to number 5, our last one. So the last key to set yourself apart in a saturated market. I like this one. You said saying yes before you're ready. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yes. I don't know what I mean by that. I just can say it. Just go for it. No, I'm just kidding. We try not to ever turn down opportunities, especially when they fit the big picture goals, even if we aren't quite ready for them. So sometimes maybe we're slightly understaffed to make that project happen, or when it comes to like branding or creating campaigns, we can, especially on the agent level, when we get down to working with agents, we can get paralysis by analysis by over analyzing and overworking and over tweaking things. If we don't set deadlines, say yes, make it happen, we can get in our own way of communicating well, and just say yes before we're ready. We go for it, make it happen.
That's awesome. So I'm curious on that last point too, then what's the biggest key to being able to say yes even before you're ready? Like, what have you had to do to prepare yourself or others on your team to be able to do that? Is it about being really organized on the back end and working really efficiently? Is it about being able to say yes and then come back later with the details on how you're going to make it happen or what the timeline's like? So, that's where my head's at. Tell me what's been the biggest thing that has helped you and your team be able to confidently say yes, even if you don't feel ready in that moment?
Yeah. So this might contradict slightly. I don't think that it does though. A sales guy actually told me this. He said, luck happens to people who are prepared for it. So And then I like to say confidence, or let's see, preparation is the catalyst of confidence, right? So preparing yourself, having all of the small details complete prior to those big things coming to you. If you have all your ducks in a row and you're checking all your boxes, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, paying attention to those little details. When those things are thrown at you, it's surprising to look back at how much that layering ends up elevating you at the end of the day, right? We work with small business branding and marketing every single day, all day, and there's so many little steps. We have a 100-day action plan for our agents, 100 days of setting up all of the tiny little things. And when you take those little steps and you create those little habits, you are more prepared than you realize, and that sets you up to be confident, put your best foot forward, so when things are thrown at you, you're ready to roll, and luck happens.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, great example. So get your own personal house in order, get organized, be prepared, and then when those opportunities come, you can more confidently say yes and dive in and figure out how to make it happen.
That's right. Before you're ready.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so let's recap real quick. Quick summary. 5 keys to setting yourself apart in a saturated market. First is leading with passion. So we talked about. Second is capitalizing on strengths. Third was never disregard your weaknesses, and shared some good examples of that. Fourth is marketing and business development or sales must syndicate, be closely tied together. And then fifth was saying yes before you're ready. So Liz, this is awesome. I love these tips. I want to take them back and apply them, in our own businesses. Think about how I can do some of these things together as well. I think many of us face competition. And I think that these are really well thought out keys to setting yourself apart in that saturated market. And obviously these have worked really well for you and your team there at Silvercreek. As we talked about at the beginning, the success that you've had over the last few years, and looks like it's continuing, right? We're going for the top of that list, in the top 40 now, but look out, right?
That's right. Watch out.
Awesome. Well, Liz, as we wrap up here, if there was one piece of advice, just if you were to summarize kind of what we talked about today in one piece of advice that you might have for our listeners out there, what would that advice be? What advice would you give them to take back and apply in their own businesses or do as a result of what we talked about today?
Yeah, I think on a branding development standpoint, I'd say stay true to you, trust your gut, and know that no one will run your business as well as you will. Love it.
Great tip. Liz, this has been awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. If there are listeners who want to get in touch with you or have follow-up questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
So my LinkedIn should be LinkedIn/Liz-Comer. Or you can just search me on there. You'll find me. And my email, you can email me anytime at liz@silvercreekrealty.com.
Awesome. We'll drop both of those links on the page so you can find them below. Don't have to worry about writing them down. Liz, thank you again so much. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much.